Signore e signori, buonasera, benvenuti alla casa italiana Zerilli-marimò per questo 45esimo anniversario dei Giullari di Piazza. You recognize many familiar faces, and if you're here, you more or less know who the Giullari are, but you're going to have an occasion tonight to also listen to the reconstruction of a very adventurous, very lively, very travagliata storia, but that is having a great, great outcome. Alessandra Belloni and John Barbera, that are the two co-founders of the Giullari di Piazza, 45 years ago had the idea that Italian folkloric music is a serious thing. Allow me to quote a colleague from another institution in this city that at that time would say, "Qui non si balla la tarantella," whenever they proposed to her something that had to do with popular culture, folklore studies, and so on and so forth. That, in that sentence, there are thousands of pages of elitism, racism, anti-Southern perspective from the north of Italy. There is everything in that sentence. And in this casa, in this place, we also dance la tarantella. Then we talk about Dante, then we talk about Montale, and then we study opera lirica and everything else. But really, Alessandra and John had this merit of creating a space for this music and giving to this music the dignity that it deserves. And they did that with the passion and the courage that we all have witnessed throughout the years. We have a lot of guests. I never know when Alessandra is here at what time we're going to go home. Eventually, we're going to go home. And we have still guests coming. If there is any young and strong person seated that feels like giving the seat to somebody older and not so stabile, it's welcome. It's a good gesture. But before, no, I think I'm all done. Now it's a great pleasure to continue this introduction with a person that witnessed the birth of the Giullari di Piazza, not only, but that also was instrumental in creating this connection between New York University, the Department of Italian Studies, Casa Italiana, and the Giullari di Piazza. He's a poet, he's a writer, he's a literary critic, he's a militant intellectual in the sense that he is one of those rare persons that have an intellectual role in society, in academia, but that believes and thinks that because of that, he must do something for the rest of society. And he does. And he does it through publications. He created this beautiful collection of books with the University of Toronto Press, through which they publish every year 2-3 titles of great classics of Italian literature that are not available in translation. They become available in translation. They can be used in American and English-speaking universities. These and many, many more things. The last thing, he wrote a libretto for an opera that we presented last year. So I could go on and on and on, and I'm not even starting to tell you the titles of his books. But it is my enormous pleasure to welcome here tonight one of the persons that really was instrumental in the birth of Giullari di Piazza, my dear friend and colleague, Professor Luigi Ballerini.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Buongiorno, buonasera. È vero, we'll be here for a long night. But I'll be very brief instead. Yes, the Giullari di Piazza and I go back a good number of years. As a matter of fact, more than 45, because when we started, the Giullari were some sort of a fluid, existent group that kept changing profiles, moving in and out of strange locations, and it took a while before we could actually have a great performance here in this auditorium. I love the way French-speaking people count numbers, you know. If they hate from France anyway, for 80, instead of saying 80, they say, as they do in Belgium or in Switzerland, 80. 4 times 20. That's much better. That enables you to experience and savor 4 times the dreams of thy youth, as Melville said once, while resisting the passing of time. And you just have to pick which stretch of the 20 you want to inhabit. So, Giullari entered my life at the end of my second 20s, have caused my eyes to fill with tears of joy in my third 20s, and lo and behold, have miraculously resurfaced in the fourth tract of my stretching youth. As it were not enough to justify my presence here and the delight of being here tonight with them and with you, our encounter takes place exactly where they are certainly not the first, but perhaps the first significant performance in this auditorium, the newly established Casa Italiana Zerilli-marimò, and welcomes them back tonight. Unlike most institutions whose programs are governed by the assumption that successors are traitors and predecessors idiots, the current director of the Casa Italiana, my very good friend Stefano Albertini, has not only not erased my name and the memory of my name from the roster of the founding fathers of this department and the Casa, but in fact he has generously and enthusiastically endorsed what I might call a repatriation and given ample support and hospitality to some of my cultural predilections and activities, for which, Stefano, I'm very most grateful. Thank you so much. So, here we have it. The Casa Italiana, Stefano Albertini, the Giullari di Piazza, Alessandra and John, and let me add the opportunity to reunite here tonight with my one-of-a-kind student, Bill de Blasio. Frankly, dear all, I have no desire to run quickly through the fifth 20-year-long portion of my allotted times. And therefore, thank you very much for being here. And I suppose now the Giullari should actually come forward and delight us as they have been for the last 45 years. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try not to cry. I was crying back there. I'm very emotional because I haven't seen Luigi and Paola in a very long time. And so a lot of emotions are coming up, right, John?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we are.
Wow.
The night is here. We've been working on this for
over 2 months.
45 years.
45 years. And I think the spirit is going to be a lot of improvisation because, to be honest, I have never held a script in my life on stage. And I've never been part of a PowerPoint, so some of it will be improvisational, Giullari style. So we're going to take you back in time, this long journey with lots of adventures, artistic and some funny stories that happened to us for real. Maybe when we tell them you won't believe it's true. And really, the way we started was, as Luigi said, was back in the late 70s. And when in Greenwich Village, everything was happening. I'm sure the village is still happening today, but nothing like the 70s and then the 80s. So we're blessed to be part of that generation. And I'm going to have John first speak about his story in the 70s, because we did it in reverse. He went to Italy and I came to New York. Prego, John.
Okay, well, buonasera. Grazie a tutti. Thank you, Professor Ballerini. and Stefano, Professor Albertini. It's a pleasure to be back here. But I guess to begin with, I want to. I started to think about this journey. I was born in New York City in the East Village, East 9th Street, and I haven't gone too far. Now I'm on 12th Street. So I wrote a story for the Italian Oral History Institute, and it was called New York to Italy and Back Again. And the real title was That's Not Italian Music. And the reason was, I didn't really, growing up here in New York, I didn't really know the folk music. Mostly, you know, my grandparents, all my grandparents were from Italy, from southern Italy. And my parents grew up in New York City. And I heard the Italian music through my relatives who played. So I started to first be attracted to the guitar, and that's what changed my life. I never expected to wind up in the land of my grandparents and to be doing something for so many years. So right here on these 3 slides, the first one is from 1965, September of 1965, with my brother who's here somewhere. Dennis, that's my fratello. He actually convinced my father that, you know, John needs a guitar. He's going crazy. My father bought me a guitar on a Friday night, and I started taking lessons, and then I started to realize that I really liked it, and we had a group together. We started doing folk music, American folk music, and then we formed this group called the Fugitives, and our first big highlight was playing in the New York State Pavilion of the New York World's Fair back then. So I decided then that I wanted to continue music, so I started to study classical guitar, and I was fortunate to have a degree at the Hart School of Music, and it was there that my professor Del Principe said, you know, I'm going to give you a scholarship to study in Siena. Siena? What? So I wound up in Siena, and that year was 1973. So that was my first time outside of New York City, and in the Piazza del Campo. And I was living in the beautiful Palazzo, and I heard about the Palazzo Chigi, and so many wonderful things that started to change my life even more. And this was actually a letter that I wrote. I started to say, I'm going to write a journal, and this was the journal. First page, as you could see, it ends with it's all shaking because the plane was going through turbulence. And I said, I think this is going to be a very interesting experience, going to Italy. What's it going to be like? So that was my excitement. Like, I didn't know what to expect. I wound up touring all over Tuscany, and this is from a concert we did at the Duomo di Siena, Concerto di Musica Sacra, and it was there where I saw the pavement, and I'll tell you more about that later in the Duomo. And I went from I wanted to live in Italy so bad. I had to make some money. I didn't have a job, and I thought I had a scholarship, but I didn't have anything much. So I started to play in the street. That's in front of the Uffizi Museum in Firenze for the tourists. And so to give you a little bit of background of Italy in the 1970s, groups focused on researching and representing traditional music in opposition to commercial mainstream. So this was a movement that started with the students. This awareness and the recordings of Diego Carpitella and Alan Lomax was a big influence because Italians wanted to find their voice and bring back, and it was from all over Italy, music from north to south. The Nuova Compagnia di Canto Popolare, which we'll tell you more about later, was formed by the musicologist Roberto De Simone in Naples, and they were the front runner group that everyone was like wild about because the music was so beautifully arranged. The folk revival singers, Rosa Balestrieri, Maria Carta, and groups. Gabriella Ferri. This was Fabrizio D'André. This was really a very political movement. Folk music was a political movement to bring people back to their roots. And so folk music and street theater was also, I remember just starting out busking in the street, doing performances. And it was there in the Piazza Signoria where they saw me playing was the group, well, they weren't a group yet, was a bunch of students from Taranto in Puglia. And they were kind of like these street minstrels. And they were singing these beautiful villanelle and tarantella that I never heard before. And they pulled me in and they said, Johnny, you have to play with us. And so they sat me down in a room, fed me, gave me lots of great wine, and I learned one tarantella after another. So it was so mind-boggling that I couldn't, capture it all. We eventually formed a group called Puppe Frezzedde from 1975 to 1979. I'm the one with the beard, as you could tell. And over there, there's some. So these are some of our shows that we did. We started out in the streets of Florence. Puppe Frezzedde, if you translate it, now remember this. What does it mean? Bread and puppet, which we're going to talk to you about. And so by 1979 or 1978, we recorded our first CD in Milano with the Vergo Phonogram, which is a very big label in Europe. And we called it La Terra del Rimorso. Now remember that name also because Ernesto De Martino was a writer who wrote about the social conditions of southern Italy. And it was a very important book, The Land of Remorse. It was the land of the Tarantati. Nobody knew about any of this stuff yet outside of the South where it took place. But he's the one who really presented it in a way that made it come alive. And this was part of the movement. And this great record was the culmination of all those years. And so finally, by the end of the 70s, a lot of that dream changed. And Alessandra's going to tell you about her coming to... Oh, yeah. Sabrin Titotum.
Yes.
So this was one of the first tarantellas. They sent me down in the room, and they said, okay, we're going to play this. Put this on. And it's actually... It was also part of a lot of research that we started to do because we wanted to find out what is this thing called tarantella? How far back can it go? And the first notation of any tarantella was made by a Jesuit. His name was Athanasius Kirka. And he wrote so many treatises, and the Vatican had sent him down to southern Italy to find out what was this madness called tarantismo. And this was, he notated it in 1600, so we called it the Tarantella del Seicento. But Antidotum was also found in that book, and there's so much to tell you about, but I'll tell you about it later.
It's the antidote to cure the mythical bite of the tarantula. Also, I want to introduce the musicians. Mara Garrity on violin. Considered a new member of I Giullari di Piazza because she's been with us for about 10 years. Krista Patton goes all the way back to 1989, right? And one of the first original Giullari member, Ralph Dancer. So happy you could make it from Montreal. Oh my God, that's me! Ha! So I have the opposite story. I was born in Rome, so I'm not really a Southern, but my grandparents played Southern Italian folk music in the family gatherings, which we didn't like because we loved rock and roll. And our dream was to come to America. So what happened to me in the early 70s, my sister took off for New York. She came to study film at NYU Film School. And my mother was an amazing woman. Actually, she loved Luigi very, very much. I just remember that. She really loved you, and I know you loved her very much too. And she took me for a month vacation. And that month vacation is still happening. I never really moved back to Rome. I fell in love with New York right away, especially Greenwich Village. I wanted to be an artist. I always knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. I always sang. I always wanted to be an actress. I had already had a chance to work with Anna Magnani in Rome when I was 14, but my father denied me the permission to travel with her. I'll tell you more about that story on the play La Lupa. So when I got here, it was freedom. I'm not going back. I'm going to stay, and I'm going to do what I dream. Music, theater, dance. And of course, I dreamt to be a film actress, to be on Broadway, and to become a star. And I also had some things. I used to paint my forehead. I smoked a pipe and things like that. Borkum Reef. We became friends because of the tobacco. We smoked together. So what happened, I really fell in love with the village. I stayed. That's a whole other story, how I became a legal resident. I can't share that part. But it will be in my next book. So then I stayed here, and at that time, everything was happening, as I said, in the village, and I was really lucky to be on MacDougall Street, where, Paul Simon started, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez. I was in that scene. I even saw them, walk around. And so, as many actors, I started to work as a waitress in Caffè Reggio, which is still there, and it's the oldest cafe in New York. And also there, they shot a lot of films, so I was really, as I was studying acting at HB Studio, I was also cast to be in that film. So I am in the next stop, the Greenwich Village. The interesting thing is that was in 1975, I didn't know that John was outside watching us film, and I met him a year later, but he was watching the people filming. So then I continued my acting career in film. I went back to Rome, and I was cast by Federico Fellini. I hope everybody knows what that is. This is Next Stop, Greenwich Village was directed by Paul Mazursky with Christopher Walken, by the way. That's how he was in the movie. And that's Caffè Reggio. And then when I got to Rome, I got a part as the Turkish princess for Casanova. It was an incredible experience, even though I am not in that film. It's a long story. I mean, the longer version, but not the short version. But it was an amazing experience, also because Fellini really liked me very much. I don't know what triggered that in him. He was like a father, and he kept telling me, and he called me one day, he was being massaged, I swear. I saw Fellini half naked, being massaged with his wife, Giulietta Masina, who I adored, and saying, I've been watching you. You're a very serious person, actress, young and beautiful. Don't stay in Italy. They will try to, here there's a lot of corruption. Go back to New York and do theater. You are a theater person, not a film person. And to this day, I don't know what made him do that with me, but I'm very grateful because I followed Fellini's advice. And I came back to New York. And John even met him at some point. So when I came back here, I continued to do some theater, but it was all because of Luigi Ballerini. I met Luigi at Caffè Reggio and then at Caffè Dante. And there you are! And there is Paola, his beautiful wife. And Luigi still is very charismatic. He was incredibly charismatic and also a revolutionary. So many words come to me, but with an incredible energy and wanted to do so many things, and had a great group of students that followed him, and they had formed an Italian-speaking theater group. So I was lucky that I was there at that time, and that they were casting for a play called Il Cilindro, and which is by Edoardo De Filippo, the famous Neapolitan playwright. And I auditioned, and I got the leading role. During that time, at the cafe, I also met John La Barbera. He walked in with his guitar, dressed in black, long hair, the pipe, which was our common thing. And I asked him right away, let's play music. So we started playing together, different kind of music, and not this music we're playing here now. And we became friends right away, and we formed, should I say the name of that group? We formed a trio, which was called I Tresticoli. I don't know why that happened. Però è vero. That's it. So then I got cast in Cilindro, a play by Edoardo De Filippo, and I got John involved to do the music. And it was a hit. People really loved it. It was a very Neapolitan story. 1976. Yeah. Cilindro was in 76. So that was the beginning of really performing together. And then at some point, John decided to go back to Italy.
Wait a second, what about the song?
Ah, the song, you're right.
So
John.
every time I would be in the Cafe Dante, I get there like probably around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because I was coming back from Italy. I didn't really know what I was doing in New York yet. I was only here temporarily, and so but I found the Cafe Dante. It was a miracle, because I had just come from Florence, and walking down McDougal Street, Cafe Dante was on the right side of the street, and I looked in the window, and there was a Piazzale Michelangelo mural on the wall, and I said, wait a second, that's Firenze, and I'm in New York. Look at that. I was like, so I had to walk in there. It was really strange that I walked into that cafe. I would have never met Alessandra.
That's true.
And so I saw this guy playing mandolin, and I didn't start, then I said, I had my guitar with me, so he saw me and he said, do you want to play some music? And so we started to play, and I started going there. Then I went back next day, so I started going there regularly. He started telling me about this waitress that would come in from Cafe Reggio. She likes to sing. Okay. So I, had one day she comes in, she started coming in, we started talking, and then she said, I do this music, and she started to sing this song, and we're going to play for you. How about it?
We haven't played this in at least 4 years, because when I began to sing in Rome, I was totally in love with Fabrizio De André. If you don't know him, look him up. He was our Bob Dylan. Nei quartieri dove il sole del buon Dio non dà i suoi raggi, ha già troppi impegni per scaldar la gente d'altri paraggi. Una bimba canta la canzone antica della donnaccia, quel che amor non sai tu lo imparerai solo qui tra le mie braccia. E se alla sua età le difetterà la competenza, presto affinerà le capacità con l'esperienza. Vecchio professore, cosa vai cercando in quel portone? Forse quella che sola ti può dare una lezione. Quella che di giorno chiami con disprezzo pubblica moglie, quella che di notte stabilisce il prezzo alle tue voglie. Tu la chiamerai, tu la invocherai più di una notte, 10.000 lire per sentirti dire miccio belle bamboccione. I haven't done it in a long time, so grazie. I hope some people here know who Fabrizio De André is. Okay, that's in the next time. He was a very important folk singer, songwriter from the 70s and 80s for a long time from Genoa.
So then on that return trip, after hanging out at the Cafe Dante, my friends in Florence were calling me and say, Johnny, we have to do this tour, come back. And I said, sure. Okay. So I went back to Florence. and that was in 1976. On my return trip back, we had already started doing some theater, and we met Peter Schumann, the director of the Bread and Puppet Theater. And I have to see what I'm talking about here. We met, so he met us in Milano, and he liked what we were doing, and he said, I'd like to invite you to America. Okay. Not me, but the group. He didn't know, he thought I was, from Firenze, so he didn't know. But then he found out, I told him I was from New York City. So then he said, I want to bring you to my Domestic Resurrection Circus up in Glover, Vermont. That was for the next year. That was going to be in 1977. And it's a spectacle that so then he decided that he heard us do this song called La Ballata di Masaniello. It was one of our songs that we did. And he said, I love that song so much, I want to construct a show based on that song. And so he invited us back. Masaniello was the story of a Neapolitan fisherman who led a revolt in Naples in the 16th century against the tyranny of the Spanish. At that time, Naples was under the Spanish domination, and which they had imposed a huge tax on the fishermen. And so he led this very big revolt. And the song's about the 14 days of Masaniello. And I got it so involved in it. Okay.
That's Bread and Puppet.
There's Bread and Puppet, Peter Schumann, and the Bread and Puppet Theater. And so we wound up going back to Vermont, and that's where I met Ralph Denzer. Ralph was with the Bread and Puppet Theater at that time, and we had a lot in common because we both loved early music, and then it turned out that I was living on 9th Street in the Village, and he was living on 9th Street. We were connected by 9th Street, and my grandfather's shoe store was on the same block, right across the street. So this, so here's a book by Stefan Brecht. During the tour of the Bread and Puppet Theater in New York, I came back, and my father kept saying, this guy keeps calling you. He wants you to call him. And I said, all right, well, tell him I'm busy. So, and all the time, he's calling me. So every time I saw my father, damn it, did you call this guy Mr. Brecht? And I said, all right, I'll call him. So I had no idea he was the son of Bertolt Brecht. And so he said, I want to interview you. And he wanted to know more about the Italian group and about this show, the music, Masaniello. So I met him at the Cafe La Lanterna. I said, he wanted me to go to the Chelsea Hotel. I said, we're too busy. So meet me down at the cafe. So he came down. And so these are some of the puppets from the Washington Square Church. That's the Washington Chair. And then we did a gallery. Ralph, you remember that? Yeah. That was on Green Street, in Soho. And it was a great experience. And
oh, no. Let me help you.
Okay, so now we're going to do the song.
Okay, how do you like this for a Giullari?
Commedia dell'arte.
We're starting already, right, Gypsy Joe?
Okay.
Tipico.
Okay, so now we'll present to you the song.
O Conte Masaniello, which also we haven't done in a long time, but that was on our first pieces that we started performing. Masaniello è un pescatore, Masaniello è un pescatore, pescatore non mai ricresce, Masaniello se mangia un pesce, Masaniello se mangia un pesce, bene subito vincere, questo pesce schietta, tutta bene per te, passa moda va, questo pesce tu vuoi già, all'udienza della valore, Masaniello è un pescatore. Su credo no, guarda. Just a little taste, because this song has 25 verses, so we just chose one, because it is the story, the life story of Masaniello. So then I stayed in New York, and I continued also to work with Luigi. You put together an incredible play, remember, what is fascism? We did it at the Performing Garage, and I got to meet the incredible William Dafoe, because he was the director there. And so I stayed because I thought, okay, this is the time. I'm not going back to Italy, I'm continuing. And then I called John, and I said, you gotta come back here. We can do the group here. I know we can make it happen. So I kidnapped him.
So she kidnapped me, and as you could see, it wasn't, I didn't know what to expect. So she, you know, I was fortunate because I still kept, all those years in Italy, I kept a small studio apartment on East 9th Street. And so things started to come out of the 9th Street. Ralph Denzer lived on 9th Street down the block. The Bread and Puppet had the storefront.
Storefront theater.
The storefront. Ralph, why don't you say something about that?
We started a theater in a double storefront on East 9th Street. We made seats out of packing crates, wooden crates from the antique store. We sewed our own cushions, and we made lights out of Maxwell House coffee cans with light bulbs and little dimmers. We did a lot of, we worked there for many years.
It was great.
Great space.
So what happened, that John and I fell in love, and we were together for a long time, and the music swept us away. So I don't know, the music and love, we lived together in this tiny, tiny apartment on East 9th Street. And then we decided to form the group, which we called I Giullari di Piazza.
So it took us years to get to that
Yeah,
point.
now I want to say why we chose that name, because I want to say that there's a long story behind I Giullari. I was inspired by Dario Fo and Mistero Buffo, a very important playwright and Nobel Prize winner from Milan, that, again, another miracle Luigi made. He succeeded to have him come to America together with some people because he wasn't allowed to come in because he was a communist. And I come from a leftist family, so I adored Dario Fo, and he was the modern master of commedia dell'arte. So inspired by that famous show, Il Mistero Buffo and I Giullari, I chose this name, but this name means a lot. In the medieval times, in the Renaissance times, there were I Giullari di Dio, the jesters of God, the ones that performed as monks, and they did political theater, and then there were I Giullari di Piazza, who were not monks, and they did acrobatics, juggling, fire-eating, stills, all the things that they were impossible, they did it. That inspired me to give that name. And by giving us that name, it's like I gave us, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but I have attracted a lot of crazy people in this group. And stories, because I used to read, that's what happened in the Commedia dell'arte. That's what they did in Commedia dell'arte. It all happened to us. So we started Giullari di Piazza, and our first show was, again, thanks to Luigi, alla Maison Française, because we didn't have an Italian department. It was la Maison Française. And we wrote like a series of skits, and it was called La Serenata di Pulcinella, because I was obsessed with Pulcinella. I studied Commedia dell'arte, pantomime. I was also inspired by an amazing French film. I hope some people know this film, Les Enfants du Paradis. It's a masterpiece of Commedia dell'arte with two famous minds, Jean-Louis Barrault and Etienne de Croo, and it was written by Jacques Prévert. I think some people of our generation knows who these people are, but that inspired me to start the troupe. And I played Pulcinella. I played Pulcinella for many, many years, and we just put skits together with another actor called Claudio Saponi from Rimini.
There's just the three of us.
And now, just the three of us. And now we're going to do a piece that was part of that, which is La Tarantella Cicciorenella, the Neapolitan. I will explain also who Pulcinella is, but let's play first, and then I'll tell you who Pulcinella was. Puoi cantare, vai, canta. La Cicerella deve venuga, tutta la notte ce ne va a cavallo, Cicerella deve venuga, tutta la notte ce ne va a cavallo, ma non ce ne deve sopra la tella, chi se lugado del Cicerella, ma non ce ne deve sopra la tella, chi se lugado del Cicerella, Cicerella mia, Simone bella, Cicerella mia, Simone bella. E chi l'avevo fatto, e Cicerella deve una botte, vedete la coppa scivolato, Cicerella deve una botte, vedete la coppa scivolato, ma la buttava la notte di sette, chi se lo chiude del Cicerella, ma la buttava la notte di sette, chi se la botte del Cicerella, Cicerella mia, Simone bella, Cicerella mia, Simone bella, bravo, bravo, bravo. E Cicerella deve un culo che mi pare, non la comprano più. Cicerella deve un culo che mi pareva una comprano più. Ma la buttava la notte di stelle, chi se lo culo del Cicerella. Ma la buttava la notte di stelle, chi se lo culo del Cicerella. Cicerella mia, Simone bella. Cicerella mia, Simone bella. Cicerella mia, Simone bella. Cicerella mia, Simone bella. Peter De Geronimo. Julian, if you can hear me, Julian, I personally need a little more volume because I can't hear myself. The volume is okay there, outside. Yeah, I just can't hear myself that much. A little more, Julian, just because I have a little cold. So, ok, John, andiamo avanti. Dove siamo? Ah, quella è tutta un'altra storia. Forse Giulia vuoi girare lo speaker verso di me? Bravo, perché non mi sento, capito? Grazie. So John and I decided that the only way to do the real music of the South, not the imitation like lots of groups are doing now. I don't want to give names, but a lot of people I know now are studying with me and John, don't speak a word of Italian, don't go to Italy, and they think they can play Southern Italian folk music. While it took us 45 years to master this. So we started from the roots. In 1980, we went back to the south. We started in Calabria, but we went everywhere, Puglia, Campania, and Sicily. So those are many, many stories that maybe one day we do another presentation just of our field research, what happened from place to place, because it's incredible the stories we have. Some of the things that happened to us, we were in a beautiful place. How would you describe that, John? Where were we in Calabria? Guests?
Okay, we were guests of...
Everybody knows what that means?
Well, as you see in that last photograph, we were in this beautiful place. We just wound up there because we were recommended to go there by somebody's friend, a friend of a friend. And we wound up in this beautiful, on the coast near Tropea, with a beautiful sea. And we had so many different amazing experiences. And all the time, the fortunate thing about that, that's where we met Vittorio.
Right, one of my teachers. So
Right,
that's
so-
where I started to...
And he was a
learn
friend
the
of mine,
music.
he was the brother of one of my friends from the group, Pupi Frazede. So we had some kind of connection. And they were all tied to this folk music. They had, it was just coming out of them, like they'd be working in the factories and these songs would be coming out. They were working in the fields and these songs would be coming out. And when we went there, we were just bombarded by so many rich songs and melodies.
And
that
feasts, a lot of processions. So
Always
if you go to the
connected.
next slide, we can show what we were doing in Calabria. One of our board members in the photo. Can I say that? Joan Migliori Marchi. There she's hanging out with us in Calabria because we met at the worst camping I've ever seen in my life. Really uncomfortable, giant mosquitoes, but that was the center of Italian folk music. And we had great times, and that's where John created a crazy show called the Johnny Mambo Show. And Gypsy Joe, do you want to say that story about John? Falling. Yeah. We could do it quickly, but this happened that night. Yes, with big boys.
I've been around a long time, as you can tell by the white hair, right? Grazie, grazie, grazie. So anyway, I've seen a lot of musicians in my life. We'd be performing on stage, maybe after a glass of wine or two, because Johnny loved his wine and so do I. And we'd be playing and doing a nice melody. All of a sudden, John would zone out. And then come in on the next bar without missing a note. But he would actually, I think he had narcolepsy or something like that, or sleep apnea. But he would just zone out. I could see him. I'm looking at Alessandra. She's looking at me. Don't know what's going on. But he would come in on the next bar, not missing a note. Never missed a note. So we named him Johnny Mumba. Johnny's greatest words, hai fame e voglio vino. That was his famous words in Italian. Ah, viva Giovanni.
Yeah.
Grazie.
That's right. That's right. Well,
And he created this, there's a whole story about that, but we should move on. The Johnny Mambo show was crazy, and Joan Migliori was there with us. It was really a wild night in Calabria, but then we kept coming back to New York and create shows. So that's, here we are, Ralph, look. This is the first Christmas show we created at NYU in 1981. And you know who that is? That's Edoardo
Edoardo
Ballerini, Luigi's son,
He's
who's
also
a very, very accomplished actor. He was 11, I think, right? 11, yeah. We cast him. He was already acting so young, and now he's an accomplished actor. A lot of movies, a lot of television, very handsome. And so he actually has our name in his resume. He does, yes. So that was a show we put together, with different stories from the Renaissance. And Elisa Mereghetti was also part of this production, who is a director who lives in Bologna. And here I am learning the tambourine, and then we can go to the next show. Yes? La Canzone di Zezza. This was a bigger production, a production that took me a long time to research. It's called La Canzone di Zezza, and it's done every year in Carnival, still done today, during Carnevale, especially in a town called Monte Marano. And the tradition goes way, way back to the Renaissance, probably earlier. And Pulcinella is the lead character. So I want to say who Pulcinella represents is the typical Neapolitan mask, but it goes way back to pre-Christian times during the theater time called Atellane, and it was called Maccus. And then re-emerged in the Renaissance with this very funny face, a big nose, and dressed in white because he's a psychopompo. He's the one that takes us in the other world. He's very ambiguous. He can be half man, half woman. He's very, very funny, and he's very, very tragic. So he's tragicomic. His moves are really funny because he moves like a chicken. That's what Pulcinella means, little chicken. And it's really interesting that he's always looking for food, but he never likes to work, so he hardly ever eats. And he's always looking for love, but because he has this big nose, no one loves him. So, Pulcinella, there's a lot more you can say, but I was so taken by this character, I played it for a very long time. Until then, I trained different actors to play that character. So now we're going to do a little Carnevale piece, Monte Maranese, before we introduce you more to Pulcinella. Yep. yeah, that was a very interesting production. We had some professional actors with us, so that's when things became more professional. We started to hire people that actually had theater experience instead of just asking people to audition in a party. That's how I found actors. If I heard somebody speak Italian, hey, you speak Italian? We need an actor. That's how we met Giuseppe, Vincenzo, Elisa. But from this, then I did a lot of research, again, on Pulcinella and Commedia dell'arte, and found a manuscript, very special manuscript, that I photographed at la Biblioteca del Burcardo in Rome, called L'Amor Folle. You have that? The Folly of Love. So that's me learning the tambourine. Oh, Edoardo, carino. So yeah, go to Amor Folle. Yes, it is. Oh, I skipped ahead too soon. Sorry, go backwards.
So this is when you start to play the tamburello.
Yeah. Sorry, I went ahead to L'Amor Folle. No, the next thing is Alan Lomax.
Okay, so...
I skipped over Alan Lomax, I'm sorry.
By 1981, I was working out in a Ridgewood Bushwick Senior Center, working with retired musicians from the 1920s. And they wanted to bring back some of these Italian, so the mazurkas and the waltzes. And was it there at that time that I met some people and that were connected to Alan Lomax. Now, Alan Lomax is probably one of the most important ethnomusicologists in American music. The Lomax family, they were his father, John Lomax, was the one. He started to research music in the Southwest. He introduced the America to lead belly. So the Lomax family goes really important in American folk music. And then his son, Alan, took over, and he started also with American music, but then he also went to Italy, went to Europe, he traveled all over the world to record in the 1940s and 50s this traditional folk music before it was going to die out. Because if they hadn't done these recordings, a lot of the traditional music would not have been passed down. And these were not, he recorded them, not professional singers, people that were fishermen, women weaving, working in the fields, picking olives. So he made this incredible albums that were put out and produced by Columbia Records. It's still available if you want to do any research on folk music. Alan Lomax is very important. So we wound up to meet Alan Lomax in 1981, and he was having a big festival. And at that time, in the Italian communities, there were still some of the immigrant communities that were shepherds, that were here in the New York City area. And some of them played the bagpipe, the giussop, the maranzano, all these, the jug. And they were dressed in traditional costumes. So we were invited to be part of that, and that was in, I think it was downtown, right?
Yep.
And so...
but we have a little story with Alan Lomax, can I say it?
Oh yeah, tell them the story.
Because I think the difference between people who play and people who don't play is huge. So all the anthropologists, ethnomusicologists, with all respect, they do great work, but unless they're players, they don't really know exactly what they're talking about. And that took me a long time to understand. So what happened, Alan Lomax came as the expert of Italian folk music, and he said, you move like an Israeli, you're not Italian. To this day, I've been to Israel, I've been looking at people, and like, why do I move like an Israeli? I don't know what that meant. And then told John to take the frets off the chitarra patente.
Oh yeah,
which is a joke, because I've never seen a chitarra patente without the frets. But that was really interesting, with all respect to who he was, he had to tell us what we were doing wrong, which was also not real. And he told us not to play a song that, he had discovered because he thought it was his song. But all that, a lot of respect to him. And another funny thing that happened is the people that joined our group. You want to say anything?
I met Dino Papalardi at the very far end when I was working at the Ridgewood Bushwick Senior Center. And he was from Molise, I think, and he also knew a lot of the music, so I had invited him to play in our group. And so he was one of our first male singers in the group.
And we have a little story with that too. Dino was very permaloso, touchy, and we were doing a Carnevale show, And Martin had made a beautiful puppet of a donkey, Uciuccio. And I said, Tino, you're going to play the donkey. Tu farai il ciuccio. And he got so mad, looked at me like, and then I got really mad. And then he said, I'm going to go out for a cup of coffee. And he never came back. So that was it. And I met him like 35 years later at an airport. Yes. He was drinking coffee next to me. Oh my God. That's true. So that's one of the things that happened to I Giullari di Piazza.
Okay, so let's move on to our first recording on a cassette tape. Wow. That was a big step for us.
Yeah.
That was in 1982. Now, up until this time, when we first started the group, it was just, I was the only musician. It was just me on the guitar trying to get the flute, the violin, the mandoloncello, the mandolins. And I was, Alessandra, when I was in Italy, we had a whole group. We had flutes, we had, mandolins, we had violins. I said, we need to expand our group. And that's when we also invited Ralph to come in. And Ralph was a master on all these wind instruments. He also played some of the pluck string instruments as well. So this was the first recording in which I had orchestrated or arranged for our first ensemble. Oh, this. Ah, okay. Thank you, folks. I'm back in 1981, so excuse me.
So my voice is a little different, I hope, now. But that's the style, really. In the south of Italy, women do sing like that. So with this cassette, we wrote our first tune, which is a lullaby. It's called Ninna Nanna.
Ninna.
And we're going to play it for you because we haven't done this also in a very, very long time, right, John?
That's right.
And I think we wrote it in Rome. That's what I remember.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's a lullaby. And we have Krista on the harp. cruda, tutti cose che dai sognare, rimane pensando, tutti cose che dai sognare. Our first song. Scusatemi, but we have a guest in Italy who was our really one of the first members of I Giullari di Piazza, and I just got so excited and I forgot that she's been waiting to be on Zoom with us. From Bologna is Elisa Mereghetti, who was also a co-director of the company, sang in our recordings, and very, very helpful. Now she's an accomplished film director. Elisa, scusami, mi sono lanciata in questa cosa. She can't hear me if I don't speak here.
Yeah,
Prego Elisa, mi devi scusare, mi sono lanciata in questa serata. Bella.
It's okay.
You want to say something about being part of one of the original members of I Giullari di Piazza?
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Really sorry about my voice. And I have a bit of a cold, and it's really kind of late here in Italy. So, but I really wanted to be here with you to celebrate this incredible group with John and Alessandra and their wonderful skills, both musical and leading skills, and a vision. Really, they brought. Over the years, they really created a vision that was not there before. So I was with the Giullari for 6 years, from 1981 to 1987, and we shared many experiences and many shows. I acted in a number of plays, and I think La Cantata dei Pastori was maybe the strongest one as far as I remember. And I played many characters as well. Such as the angel, the ogress, a fisherman, Donna Anna in the play Don Giovanni, and many others. And the nice thing for me at the time was that this group represented a sort of an oasis for me, because I was a young girl living in New York, starting a life in New York. And you can imagine that it was could be a bit scary. So this group really represented a family for me. And it made me feel at home. And we had a real sense of community. And we also had a lot of fun. One thing I always remember was when we left from Sullivan Street, where Alessandra used to live. And John had his station wagon, and we started packing props, costumes, and drums, and instruments, and tambourines, and everything. I don't really know how we managed to squeeze everything in that. And we then left for the Connecticut or New Jersey, where we were to play. So the whole atmosphere was like a real commedia dell'arte in real life. And we worked together on many things with Alessandra on the texts. That was a great experience for me to write the adaptations of these ancient texts. And I learned many things in these years, such as the acting techniques of a commedia dell'arte and the stylized movements. That was so interesting. I learned to play castanets. That was very easy. And I learned to dance a tarantella, which was not too easy, actually. But I also experienced something very important, in my opinion, which is the connection between ritual and theater, because all of our plays had some ritualistic aspects to them, and they were kind of, there was a sense of sacredness, but also the profane, because it really kind of moved along together, these two sides. And I was studying anthropology at the time, so it was so interesting. Also, being in contact with the Italian-American community was very interesting for me. I learned a lot about that community and its history. And so many of these experiences stayed with me over the years. I'm now a documentarist, director, and I have my own company called Ethnos, by the way. And I see these memories coming up, and I always use them in my in my work as well, very often. So it's very nice to go back to those memories where everything was infused with a message of community and respect towards a very strong musical and theatrical tradition. I'm just going to close it up. There was a lot of experimentation. We had, a lot of crazy things happening. We arrived late at some points, sometimes. We made a lot of mistakes. And we also started laughing during the shows on stage, and we couldn't stop laughing. But the good thing is that the audience really perceived our enthusiasm, and they always came out of the show with very joyful faces and with light and fun in their eyes. So I know that all of this continued over the decades, and it also improved certainly over the years. And so I just wish I Giullari di Piazza many more years of activity and a lot of success. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Enjoy the evening and hope to see you soon.
Thank you for staying up. Ciao,
yes,
Bella.
thank you. It's a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Oh my
Ciao.
God. Time to cry again? Wow, we have a lot of memories, don't we? Prova, okay. Sorry, I had forgotten. So. I'm so sorry.
Oh, wait. Did I play that? No. L'amor folle? Now you're at L'amor folle.
We skipped La Festa Balla?
Yeah.
Just gonna go to L'amor folle?
Yeah, let's go to...
So as I was saying before, I was going to talk about L'amor folle. So I did a very special research in a library in Rome, which is only for actors, and I found a script that was done in the Renaissance by this Neapolitan actor, Pulcinella, Silvio Perrillo, and it took me a long time to figure out what he was saying because it was all Neapolitan, and I took a lot of photos of the manuscript because we couldn't get it out, and then finally I adapted for theater. And it was really a lot of fun because Elisa was part of that show. As the title says, The Folly of Love, is the story is that everyone in the characters fall in love with the wrong person. And then at the end, with a lot of crazy things that happen. And then at the end, Cupid came and threw the arrow on each person, and then everyone fell in love with the right person. But the truth is that what happened is that this happened in our life. I'm not going to go into details, but in our group, everybody fell in love with the wrong person, and it was a big mess. So a lot of fights, a lot of love stories, and it was just leaving the show of, through commedia. And I played two roles, Pulcinella and then the lover, Lagrimosa. So now we're going to do a song from Commedia dell'arte, and I'm going to look for one of the actors. I hope he found his way here because he's the one that got lost out of NYU in 1984. It's true. He went out the wrong door at Tisch, and he never came back in. And he ended up on McDougal Street dressed as a Renaissance shepherd. So the famous Pulcinella, is he there, Vincenzo? Ci sei? Okay. And we're going to play a song from Commedia dell'arte, which is called Ricciolina, which is the lover, right? The one that has a lot of lovers. Mm-hmm. You stop playing, Joe.
I just... Stop okay, playing. Sta venendo.
Ricciolina, Ricciolina. va muerto, mai una quarta, mai gran porta, fai la lina. Una va muerta, mai una quarta, mai gran porta, fai la lila. Fai la lila, fai la lila, fai la lila, 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 fai la lila, fai la lila, fai la lila, lila, lila. Buonasera, ci vuoi dire qualcosa, Pulcinella?
Io sono Pulcinella.
Lo sappiamo.
E venga la cella. Allora aspettate, io non ero preparato.
Lo so.
Tutta sta bella gente che è arrivata. Uomo è chic e femmina puttana. Io sono Pulcinella, il re Murillo. Non venga panna e un bottanello.
Oh.
Allora aspettate, non vi preoccupate. Noi stasera
Che
una
facciamo?
bella canzone, una cantata e una ballata.
Sì.
E quando è dopo? Una grandissima magnata.
Ah!
E tutto il resto non vi preoccupate.
Ma cucini te perché io lo so che tu cucini
No.
bene.
E tutta sta bella gente che è arrivata.
Sì.
Ci facciamo una grande strafugata.
E chi cucina?
Cucino io, non ti preoccupare.
Lo saccio che sei bravissimo.
Perché c'è un'arte importante nella vita, l'arte di cantare e l'arte di ballare. Ma l'arte più importante, lo si sa, è sempre stata l'arte di strafugare. Ho detto bene?
Bravissimo. Ma ci vuoi dire in inglese, what happened to you in 1984 when you opened the wrong door?
Well, I was a young, handsome man, very tall.
Very tall.
They casted me for my height. But anyway,
Vero?
I don't remember.
When I cast you, you were
I was
17.
very high. I was very tall. Yes,
17 years old.
I was.
What happened? We're still looking for
Yeah, I
you.
was 16 or 17. Well, we did a show somewhere here in NYU,
At this show.
and then I remember I was looking for a toilet or something.
Yes.
And then I opened the wrong door. It did say something like exit emergency. I don't know. Something. It was in red. But I didn't let that stop me. And then I found myself in the streets in costume.
Of Renaissance, and
It
it was cold.
It was cold. And people were looking at me like, "Oh, you Hare Krishna? You thought I was people giving me money, but I ran and ran like a maniac, and then eventually.
And then the security
Yes.
came to look for
and
you.
It was too late. The show was over.
We were,
Obviously, they didn't need me because the show went
no,
fine.
I think
so
you made the second half or
I
something.
did or
Yeah.
something like that.
We had to skip over your parts. It was a mess. So today, just want to add this quickly. He called me many times. I was rehearsing, and guess what? He went to the main building, 7th floor, room 703, thinking we were still there.
Perché no?
No, lo so, sei andato nel passato. But I'm very, very happy. Aspetta, mi levo la maschera. I'm very happy you drove here from Washington.
Anyway, because of Alessandra and Giovanni, who I met when I was 16, then I, for many, many years, performed, and I lived a life which I never thought I, would live. So
Thank you, I love you. So Vincenzo, sit with us. And remember, we don't go to the main building anymore. The famous
A meno che non si mangia. Allora.
sì, si mangia. Ora parliamo della cantata dei pastori, so rimani, non te ne andare. Rimani qua o rimani là, come
Mi
vuoi.
dispiace.
Do you have a seat for Vincenzo there?
Posso sedere
Cosa?
al pubblico?
Sì, can you sit there because I don't think the Blasio is here. You are here! Then wait, that's the mayor's seat. Cucinella, fai una delle tue. Prego, vieni.
Story of my life.
Can somebody... No. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you, Bill. It's so great to see you. Really means a lot to us. At some point, I'm going to speak about you. Okay. So we're now at La Cantata dei Pastori, which was the first big Christmas show that we did back in 1984 when he got out and got lost. And a very important part of our story, because it was a big, big production, so we were getting funding at that time. We need the slides back. Oops. Can you figure out? Julian, we need the slides back. Yeah. So, after L'amor folle, La Cantata dei Pastori, and it was written by, at the time, famous writer Andrea Perrucci. And there is Vincenzo playing Sarchiapone. And I'm going to explain what that is. So I worked a lot to do research on this show. It was a play that's still done in Naples, and it's normally 4 hours long. We adapted it with a lot of different effects. And the story is really about the devil trying to stop the birth of Christ by killing Mary and Joseph. And he doesn't succeed because they are always helped by the Archangel Gabriel. If you want to go back to the slide before, the Archangel Gabriel was on stilts in our show, and he was a really great stilt dancer. And the lead character is really Pulcinella in the place called Razzullo, who is the scapegoat, and he's a lost scribe. He's from the Roman, he's the one that is wandering around a forest near Bethlehem, which there are no forests near Bethlehem, but this is a Neapolitan show. And he's the one that always helps Mary and Joseph when the devil tries to kill them. So he's the one who gets punished, because Pulcinella was a scapegoat. But in the best part of the story is when he meets his alter ego, Sarchiapone, which Vincenzo played really brilliantly. A lot of it was all totally improvised. And I went to a town called Torre Annunziata. It's a town near Naples, where this is the most important town for La Cantata dei Pastori research. I recorded an old man, Ferdinando Embrione. I have all the recording of his parts, improvising these characters, and I came back and we put it on stage. And that's a show that Elisa said we laughed so hard that we had to stop performing. We couldn't continue. And so Razzullo is a Pulcinella. Sarchiapone is what in Italy we call il gobbo porta fortuna. That's the origin of the gobbo. Porta fortuna, his name was Sarchiapone. And he's mean, and Pulcinella is good, so they're alter ego. And so in the show, I play Mary that defeats the devil with her drum, and good triumphs over evil. The real title was Il vero lume apparirà tra l'ombre. The true light will shine over darkness. So something I believe in very much, and I pray for always the light over darkness. So we're going to do a couple of tunes from La Cantata. Yep. And then sono. Gloria Maria, yes.
So a lot of these productions, Alessandra would come up with these scripts, and my job was to figure out, what the instrumentation we're going to use, what's the sound that we need to bring out the characters, and I started to compose more and more for these productions, trying to stick with the traditional sense and more of the folk style, and try to find our own signature sound. The next piece we're going to play is from La Cantata dei Pastori, and so I wanted to find something that would fit for this scene that was, as she said, she plays Mary on her way to Bethlehem, and it was kind of like a Hail Mary, but it's Gloria Maria. Okay?
The devil is defeated and Christ is born. And now we're going to speak a little bit about the Don Giovanni production. How's everybody doing? Are you following us? Can you say something? Because I need to catch my breath, but... Well, it was my research on a myth that I'm most fascinated with. Don Giovanni, how many women are attracted to the men that remind us of Don Giovanni? Story of my life. So, again, a lot of actors do that. We put on stage what we lived through. And so I was really taken by this character that they say lived, Don Juan Tenorio. He lived in Spain. But it was a beautiful manuscript of Commedia dell'arte from Naples called Il Convitato di Pietra, the Stone Guest. And it took me a long time to really put it together. We had a huge production. And it was, I think, the first opera you wrote music to, right, pretty much?
Yeah, so I put upon myself to write it as an opera. And I really learned so much in this style of music, writing music. A lot of it goes back to when I was living in Italy with Puppe Fresede, because they started to give me the sense of theater and music and how music relates to bringing out feelings, characters, how we perceive people and situations that, you know, the struggle. And so being able to write for a production like this was very challenging for me. But I approached it as writing an opera with an overture, which, since it takes place in Spain, as a guitarist, my first impression was to do a fandango. And I had it orchestrated, so now I had to write. And it's the first time I really had to score. Like, back then, it was all by pen and paper. So I had to write everything out. And then eventually I had to hire a copyist who could do it because production was going so fast. So I scored it for flute, piccolo, trumpet, oboe, contrabasso, bass, percussion, and then there was all the characters, and it seemed in different scenes, and there were duets and solos and a variety of things. So it was a really big challenge for me, but it really gave me a good way to learn how to write for characterization, and that later. Then I worked on films, and this all was like the next earliest stage of that. So
here is Vincenzo dressed as a woman.
That's Vincenzo.
You see here? There you go.
Okay.
Did you play my sister? Ah, sei qua, te lo ricordi?
Ti ricordi? Ah.
You played the servant and then my sister or something. Oh no, Donna Anna's sister. Yeah.
Che bella signora.
Come? Sì, Bastiano. See, he played different characters and he was great. I mean, whatever character I asked him to play, he just went right for it. And so also in this show, we would laugh and stop the show. And I played the servant. The story of this Don Giovanni, unlike the one from Mozart, the protagonista is Pulcinella, is the servant. Don Giovanni is a minor character. So my character was Vulumbrella, and we're going to do a couple of verses of that character. This is a beautiful song, very erotic song of a young girl who's just ripe for love, and the lover compares her to a fig, and in Italian that means something. So, Carnegie Hall. Yeah, we met her from the AP supermarket. Remember?
That's right, from the AP supermarket.
We were very blessed to perform at Carnegie Recital Hall in 1985. And it was a big debut presented by Robert Browning, who then became the director of the World Music Institute. Do you want to say anything about that?
The World Music Institute?
No, I mean Carnegie Hall.
Okay.
We were all very excited, so it was a very important part.
Yes, and I was very, I mean, it was, you know, to play at Carnegie Hall, you have to practice. Sorry, but I had to throw that. No, but we did already, by now, 1985, we had 5 years of the group really building, and I felt like we were reaching, I really felt that that was a very high pinnacle of the group. And Alessandra really encouraged me to keep the group going. You know, I was almost going to go back to Italy, and then she persisted and said, "John, we're going to do this." And I kept listening to her, and then, I'm playing at Carnegie Hall now. But her efforts were really paying off. So
it was a really big night, and not so much to say except that it was confirming that we were on the right track, that we were getting known, and we did get a lot of reviews. We didn't put them here, but we got New York Times, Village Voice, all kinds of reviews. I think we should go on to the next.
I just want to say the tickets were only $10.
No,
It says right there.
davvero? Stai scherzando?
Get out of the shadow.
Sorry.
Okay,
Wow.
so things were different.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
a successful night. I know Luigi was there. We were sold out. So, and we were produced. So a lot of people perform at Carnegie Hall have to rent the hall. We didn't. We were produced and paid for that. So that was really important. So andiamo. Yeah, look who's here.
Aha! Yes. 1985.
I asked your permission.
Yes, and thank you.
So
for
it's incredible. Everything happened at that time, right? So as we were part of NYU Italian department, and there were all these great students, one of them was Mayor Bill de Blasio. At that time, very similar to us. We really we came from similar backgrounds, I would say. Same vision, right? And also, I know, because you studied with Luigi, who's, the best professor in this. and it's so great for me. I feel like crying to see you both together after all these years. It's really going back in time, because it hasn't happened since the 80s. And so what happened is that he also became part of our organization. He was very active, really understood also what we were doing, because I know you have a love for Renaissance, medieval, and I know your son's name is Dante for a reason, and Chiara for another reason. So I remember that was the connection, understanding deeply what we were doing, because it was kind of obscure. Only certain people, Luigi understood, Bill understood. So he became part of our organization. You were part of the student club, very involved. And then later on, he joined our board of directors. We became a nonprofit. And another person that really helped us a lot, and one, his daughter is here, was Senator John Markey. He was our honorary chair. Luigi Ballerini was the chairman. De Blasio was on the board. And then Senator John Markey helped us to get our grants from the state. Right, Joan? You want to say anything? She's still with us. Huh? You want to say anything? Okay. Right? Right, I heard about that. Yeah. I heard about that. Yeah, it's a very strong connection. To me, that's why this is so important, because these connections don't happen like that. It's very rare. So I also wanted to say that the blood bill comes from a town that I know very well, that I go to all the time. It's called Sant'Agata dei Goti. It's a beautiful medieval town in the province of Benevento. And it's right next to the town that I go to always, with the Black Madonna that I'm most devoted to, which is La Madonna della Libera in Moiano. So I know that's another connection there. You have those roots, they're very special roots, very special, very spiritual. And I remember going there when he was elected mayor. His pictures were everywhere. And I was there, standing in front of the picture. I said, I know him, I know him, I know him. So I became very popular in Sant'Agata dei Goti. So I don't know, Bill, if you want to say something now or later.
Adesso, vai.
Adesso.
Adesso vai. Yay.
So great, grazie. Can't believe you came from Arizona. You just came from Arizona for us.
Yes.
Do you want to use the microphone?
Interview on CBS.
Yes, very good.
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, I want to speak so much about I Giullari, but I have to say, because I don't want this to be missed, that when all of us were at NYU together, when this was all starting, it was impossible for us to have this work, to get the energy and the momentum, if it were not for someone caring enough to give us that support and sponsorship, and that was Luigi Ballerini. I did take a course with him, and I remember everything he taught me. But really what I remember was trying to figure out as a young man how to be as cool as Luigi.
Yeah.
I wanted to figure out how to bring on that persona in my life. I never succeeded, but I tried. No, this is, for me, it's such a beautiful thing. I mean, 40 years, it's unbelievable. 45, but I'm saying...
No, we made 40 years.
Yeah. Even more. But the fact that you've done so much, and I also want to thank Senator Markey's daughter, because I really want to say, in an age where there's partisanship run amok, it didn't matter that he happened to be from a different political party. He loved his heritage, and he did so much to support the heritage for all of us. So thank you. But this is what I want to say. I don't think, if I were to say to all of you, Alessandra is a force of nature, I don't think anyone would disagree. I mean, this incredible, beautiful energy she brings to everything. And you just want to follow, in the best sense, because it's inspired and it's meaningful and it's from the heart. And John, I've loved watching this partnership and how you guys have created the yin and the yang.
Yes, right. You just see some of
Chiaro
our
scuro, right? All that. Salt and pepper, whatever you want. But it's I just want to give a very quick context. For me, when I got to NYU, I was deeply in search of my heritage. My grandfather Giovanni came from Sant'Agata dei Goti and gave a huge imprint to me of what our heritage meant, what our culture meant, what our sense of family meant, why it was a different thing than the American mainstream. And there was nothing, everyone in this room I think could agree. We have learned over the generations how to be American and also deeply connected to our heritage, and that there's no contradiction. And this is very much a pertinent point in this moment in history where there's some attempt to create a contradiction again, when in fact for so many of us for generations there was a fight to say no, both these things are true, both and. We are Americans, we are part of this community, we believe in our country, but we are informed and motivated and moved by our heritage, and it made us who we are. I was searching. What I just said to you this moment, I understood pieces of as a young man, as a college student at NYU, but I really didn't understand how it all fit. Yeah. And I was searching for fellow travelers. I was searching for people on the same journey. And when I found I Giullari, it was a sense of really kind of coming home to a group of people who were so profoundly promoting this idea that we could be both, but not just because they cared about heritage or about culture, but they cared about authenticity. Now, I will remind you, you talk about 1970s, 1980s, the image of Italians in this country was so powerfully stereotypical, so deeply negative. And I think it's hard, maybe from this moment in history, to remember just how thick and problematic that was. But here was this beautiful, complex community of Italian Americans. Different people have different numbers. Is it 15 million? Is it 25 million? Whatever it is, it's a huge, rich, complex community that's been in this country most of 150 years. From a country of origin, of the greatest profound impact on the world, and also extraordinarily complex and misunderstood. So a misunderstood country of origin and a misunderstood community here in this country makes for a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of stereotyping. And then our greatest artists, people we revere, I don't blame them for making movies that simply deepen the stereotype. I really don't, because they're some of the greatest movies in the history of cinema. But let's face it, in the 1970s and 1980s, the imprint, if you said Italian American, to most Americans, what came to mind immediately? It was not the most right, not the most benevolent view of our people. And then, to the extent there was a sense of our culture, our better, bigger culture, maybe it was, Michelangelo, or maybe it was opera or Enrico Caruso, there are bits and pieces, but there wasn't actually an understanding, even the slightest understanding, of our true organic culture, our folk culture, what our towns and our villages were, how they shaped us, that we were from a country that was, in only the vaguest sense, a nation, and much more a collection of provinces and towns and villages, and very, very local traditions. This was thoroughly misunderstood. And when I experienced from the beginning I Giullari, I saw all of this being peeled back, all of this being portrayed in its truth for the first time. And I know other people were on that path, trying in their own way to bring out this truth. But I just want to, I'll finish with this simple point that for me, it profoundly affected me. I hope there are other people in this room who had the same experience. It was uplifting, it was inspiring, but it was also clarifying who we really were. It helped me to want to learn more. It helped me to find these bigger truths. So I'm personally eternally grateful. And it was so important to me that on the day of my wedding, which was 1994, and when I married Charlene wanted to represent her heritage, so she had a circle of African women drummers, and she very much believed in celebrating all of our heritage together, and we had I Giullari play at our wedding as well. And it was this beautiful moment of saying, we are from all of this. We are from all of this. And we are made from all of this, and it makes us strong. It makes us inspired for whatever we can do in this world. So I just will finish by saying I was moved deeply. My life changed because of this. I think other people's lives changed. And this beautiful, beautiful work, and thank you to all of you, everyone who's been a part of it, it just continues to grow. And I think it's almost like this beautiful time release that what they started in the 70s and 80s, people could understand some of. Today, maybe they can understand the fullness of it. But it's only because there were pioneers willing to do something difficult and beautiful and keep it growing year after year after year. And here we are, all together to celebrate it and feel it once again. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Oh, it was really hard not to cry.
Oh, cry.
You can cry.
Cry.
But then I can't sing.
We'll sing the crying song.
Wow, thank you so much. Very, very
Wonderful.
moving, beautiful words. I hope to see you someday at Sant'Agata dei Goti. I go every summer. I'm there in August. It's really a special place. That's where they wrote Quando nascette Ninno, the oldest Christmas song in Italy. It's not Tu scendi dalle stelle, it's Quando nascette Ninno, which was in our show, written in Sant'Agata dei Goti by Alfonso de Liquori. So it's a famous place in this tradition, by the way. So we're gonna move quicker towards the end, I think. I really want to speak about La Lupa, the big show that we did after that. I guess, Julian, you can... Okay, Epcot Center, we're going to skip it, Vincenzo. Is that okay? We became residents at Epcot Center Disney World. It was an incredible experience, but it wasn't for us. Very conservative and very not our style. The only thing I want to say that we 6 people there, were half Jewish, half Italian. That's when we made up the name I Giullari di Piazza. Yeah. And we still use that because it's still part of that. I Giullari di Piazza. And then we recorded our album, Solillo Mio, with Shanaki, a very important label. And then I did a lot of research in the area of Benevento and Sicily, and we did La Lupa. So just a little story here. When I was 14, I was cast by the legendary Anna Magnani, hoping that everyone knows who that is. And I was supposed to play her niece, but I got the script, I rehearsed with her. It was an incredible experience to be in her presence, to say the least. She was a very, very strong, temperamental woman. I identify with her a lot. She was, I hate to say it sometimes, but she's like my role model. But she was an incredible, really incredible actress. And she cast me because Anna Magnani only worked with people that she liked. Not the director cast them, she cast the actors. She didn't like them, she wouldn't be on stage with them. So my father didn't let me travel with her. The director was Franco Zeffirelli, going to London, presented by Sir Laurence Olivier. At 14, but then he had the power to sign the papers, which he didn't do, he refused because he thought I would be corrupted. So I cried for months and I swore revenge. One day I want to be an actress, I'm going to do my La Lupa. And I did. So I wrote it doing research, especially because the story of La Lupa by Giovanni Verga is that she's accused to, is a woman in her 40s, Pina, accused to be a witch because of her sexual freedom and because men cannot resist her. In the story, though, she falls in love with a young man, Nanni, and who also likes the daughter, and then she makes a deal. They make a deal, it's a love triangle, he marries the daughter, and then they all live together. And she's still accused of witchcraft. And he's haunted by her, he can't get away from her, so it's a beautiful story, but in short, he can't resist her, so he decides the only way to get rid of her is to kill her the last time they make love. So in my research, I found out that witchcraft in the south of Italy, especially Benevento, they say that Herodias and Salome were the first witches who were in love with St. John the Baptist, the holy man, and they had him decapitated. So the legend goes, the witches of Benevento, is that during the summer solstice, they call for Herodias and Salome. And in my story, La Lupa was like a reincarnation of that, and we adapted it with that kind of prologue. It was very complicated, but it worked. And I also made her a tarantata, a woman bitten by the spider, the tarantula, who has to get rid of the poison by dancing, the tarantella, the pizzica. So it was beautiful opera. John did a lot of music. You want to play the little track from it? Are you interested in seeing a little bit of it? Oh, Julian, we need to play.
Go
Wow, that was intense for me to watch. Lots of memories. So I'm gonna move to our first show at Casa Italiana was in 1990, and here we are in this very stage where we performed first the concert for the fall called Luna d'Amore, and then our Christmas concert. And Luigi, actually, and John were together here on this stage, right?
Yes. I don't know if Luigi remember that, but he said, John, bring your guitar and come over to, we're building this new auditorium. And I met with the architect to see how the acoustics was. So, you know, I tested my guitar out in this room before all of this. As you can see, beautiful beautiful sound. And so that was, I was just a vision that he had, and it turned into this amazing cultural oasis, and that's why we're here right now. And then we, after that, we did Luna d'Amore, that was in 1990, and then the spiritual journey with the Black Madonna. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I just want to say, because it's going to be the last part of this evening, is that we went from doing all this commedia dell'arte and all these funny shows to the serious La Lupa. But something happened to me personally, especially when I was working on La Lupa. I got sick. I had a cancerous condition, and I had a surgery. And when I woke up from surgery, I had an awakening, a spiritual awakening. I saw a Black Madonna over my bed with her hands out and telling me that I had to follow her, feel the pain of the earth, and feel other people's pain. I was very young. I really didn't know what that meant, but I was always kind of psychic and medium and clairvoyant. So I actually told John, because he was at the room when I came out with my mother. And then that's when I said, okay, then I'm going to have to start following this path. And I already had books about her because I saw her in Italy, in the south of Italy. There's so many Black Madonnas. And that really motivated me to do the research, to find out it's a pre-Christian tradition, that she represents many things, the African mother, and also the earth mother, the moon goddess. And many goddesses are part of that, Isis, Hecate, Aphrodite. So the Black Madonna really represents that. The one thing about Sant'Agata dei Coti and Moiano is that Madonna that appeared to me in the hospital room. When I found her, it was kind of an accident, but it wasn't an accident, and I recognized her, Our Lady of Freedom. Very important. She frees us from pain, and it also helps the outcast. So Black Madonnas are also protector of the gays and transgender. So it's very important that that's what she represents. So we did this opera that took 3 years to write, right, John? And that's when John was injected with this music. You had to write something spiritual.
Yes, and I did.
The Legend of Virgin. If you want to say something about music.
Yeah, well, again, I was really very inspiring for me because I had, you know, my experiences in Italy brought me back, and not only was she mixing in the Black Madonna, but in the production that we did at the Cathedral of St. John Divine, called The Voyage of the Black Madonna, was also bringing in to the pathway of the Madonna, the relationship to the goddesses of Italy, in southern Italy. And there's a connection with that, and she made me aware of all this, these other rituals that I wanted to explore. And then I was writing music for the goddess Diana, Aphrodite, Canto di Hecate, Canto di Diana. So it was one canto after another, and I was really inspired by the music of in the 10th century, called the cantigas from Spain. So that was one inspirational idea, the medieval music and devotional music, how it played and how it connected to this tradition. So I could go on and on, but then
yeah, it was an incredible journey, and also important is the Black Madonna is connected to the goddess Isis from Egypt. And again, the area where Bill de Blasio is from, many people don't know, was an ancient settlement of Egyptians. So that's why there is this tradition, esoteric, It's not witchcraft the way we think. It's esoteric magic that the Egyptians left. In Benevento, there is a temple of Isis, and the Madonna di Moiano is directly connected to the goddess Isis. So I always like to emphasize that because nobody thinks of the Egyptians in southern Italy, but that's where they were. And this opera brought us to be artists in residence at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. So we say goodbye to NYU, and Luigi also went to the West Coast, but here we are celebrating today. And we met another mentor, the incredible man, Dean James Park Morton, and his wife Pamela. They gave us access to the largest cathedral of the world, and they loved the opera, they loved Italy, they loved everything we did. He became my spiritual father, and she also became like a spiritual mother, and they helped us a lot during that research for the Passion Play, which then the Black Madonna evolved into the show with the American Indians. I think we gotta go ahead. We could go on forever, but we worked with the Thunderbird American Indian dancers. We evolved into becoming a multicultural theater company, because by that time, after the Black Madonna, everything expanded, and I realized that we are all one. We have one mother, the dark mother where we come from, and the Indians always knew that. So our way of celebrating, excuse me for the people who are not with us, Columbus Day, was to celebrate with the Thunderbird American Indian dancers. And we still do that. No offense to other people, but thank you. Thank you. So we wrote a show in honor of the Indians, 1492, 1992. It wasn't offensive to the Italians. We brought our cultures together, and that's what music and dance does. And people really cried in the audience. We did it. I know your father, Senator Markey, was one of the people who helped us get the funding. And we did it for many years, and it was very meaningful. And then we went to also another spiritual show, which is the Stabat Mater, the Passion Play, where John wrote probably the most beautiful music he ever wrote. And this is called Stabat Mater Donna de Paradiso, adapted by the Lauda Spirituale by Jacopone da Todi. Remember in the beginning I said the jesters of God and the jesters of the square. So Jacopone da Todi was a jester of God. He was actually imprisoned by Bonifacius VIII, the Pope, but he wrote everything in praise of women. In 1306 he wrote Stabat Mater. You want to show a little clip before we go to the end with the tarantella?
Okay, next one.
Next. So this is when Mary finds out from St. John that her son has been taken and beaten, and she asks also the help of Mary Magdalene to help save her son.
Yeah.
No.
All right, let's keep going.
Thank you. That also makes me cry. Wow. And now we're getting towards the end where we speak about the tarantella as a healing dance, mainly for women. So in 1996, we got a very important award from Lincoln Center to present a show, brand new, and I had done a lot of research on what this dance was like before. I know everybody in this country knows the tarantella as the silly wedding dance. That's not what it is. It was a very, very wild dance, but also important that it's pre-Christian. It goes back to the myth of Arachne and Athena, the first spider woman, and also the rites of Dionysus. So the women, bacchantes, initiated in the rites of Dionysus, dance these wild, ecstatic dances, and they use the tambourine. And so we don't know what the music was really like, but we know the instruments at that time were double flutes, the tambourine, and other things. But this dance was done for many centuries until Christianity tried to stop the women from doing this. But in southern Italy, it didn't happen, Magna Grecia. And in the Renaissance, from the Middle Ages on, the Renaissance, this dance became very popular, and it was really called pizzica tarantata. That's the real name of the dance. And here we are, as we are rehearsing, I reenacted the whole ritual of a woman that falls into a form of depression known as tarantismo, and to get the poison out of the body, she has to dance and dance and break the imaginary web. So there was a whole story about this, of a woman tarantata, and then it became later on a musical with a techno tarantella called Tarantella Spider Dance. So I think it's, you can play 50 seconds of this. We did this for National Geographic.
And what a lively dance it was. It was believed the more prolonged and strenuous the dance, the more spider venom would be flushed out of the body through the victim's sweat. These were medieval times, when such frenzied revelry was as forbidden as unbridled sex. But the epidemic lasted over 300 years, and the tarantella is still with us today.
So after this, John and I started our, Bill de Blasio becomes mayor of New York. And then John and I, so do you want to say anything about that? I was part a little bit of your election, and it was great, and I was very excited about that. And when I used to say to my friends, even in Italy, oh, I know him, I know the mayor. Oh, sure, you know the mayor. But nobody believed me. But it was very exhilarating. He also came to our shows, and this was the show that we did with the Native Americans, the Silver Clouds. And then John and I took off to do our solo career, and we're going to go really quickly. I became a kind of a very well-known percussionist. With Remo, I designed my own drums, and I travel all over the world. And now I teach healing workshops for women. Rhythm is the Cure, published a couple of books on the Southern Italia tambourine. But the healing work with women I still do. I believe in that very much. And then a second book, Healing Journeys with the Black Madonna. And John also went on to do similar things. Oh, I also worked with Marisa Tomei, who's a friend of mine, on the Rose Tattoo and the PBS documentary on the Black Madonna, and it was a fantastic experience. And then Johnny did similar things. He started to write for film.
Fine. Well, yes, I actually back to Luigi, because Luigi was the one who got me into film scoring. Yes, with it was Angelo Savelli. He said, "John, would you like to do the music to this film?" I said, "Yeah, sure." I was dying to do some music for the film, and he introduced me to that whole new world. And that from that one, that was produced by the RAI also in New York, and then that led me to this film called Children of Fate, which was nominated for an Academy Award in 1992 as the best feature documentary. It was filmed in Sicily in 1961, and then his son did the second sequence to it in 1992, and that's when it came out. And then within that was also another great film that I had the honor of working with, and that was with Peter Miller, who's here, the great director, Peter Miller. Stand up, Peter. Peter Miller has presented one of the best films on Sacco and Vanzetti, and I got a call from him one day and said, I would like to bring you into this film and to do some music for it. And he actually came to my house and out in New Jersey, and I was recording with the attic. He became my recording engineer. I said, okay, turn the thing on now. I started playing. It was a lot of guitar music, and it really was an incredible experience. And most recently, his newest film called Marcella, he also invited me to do some music for it, about the great chef Marcella Hazan, which has been on PBS, also a wonderful film that has won many awards. And I've also been working in the last few years with the actor Dominic Chianese. I scored, also in the last 2 years, I scored a silent film based on the painting of the Picasso painting, The Old Guitarist. And that's also available. Then other films, the silent films that I started to get involved in, Professor Albertini invited me to premiere Assunta Spina, a film from 1916, the first Neapolitan film, and so I presented it. I premiered it here actually, and then I was invited to perform it in Pordenone in Italy, in the great silent film festival, Le Giornate del Cinema Muto. And there's my friend Dominic Chianese. And at the same time, I became a professor, an adjunct professor. I still am an adjunct professor at Bergen Community College. I just taught 3 classes today, so I'm kind of... So it all wound up full circle. That suitcase of songs that I learned in 1975 with that vino and all that food, I had to produce something from it, and I put out these 2 books with Mel Bay Publishing, distributed worldwide, and they are currently available. And that's about, there's our
we made
CDs.
9 recordings, here are a few.
And
I wanted to say, though, that we won 2 CDs were nominated Best World Music CDs by John Perales of the New York Times and Dan Hackman from the Los Angeles Times. So that's a really good thing. And here we are, back in full circle at Casa Italiana.
Grazie, Stefano.
Where we did many
Albertini.
shows and workshops. And we're going to play our last piece, dedicated to the healing power of the tarantella.
And that's us with our current group. Some of us are in the audience. No, they're right here. There's Mada on violin. She's a new generation that has taken us into the next part of our chapter of our lives. Gypsy Joe's been with us for many years. The great violinist Joe Dennisone, who's couldn't be with us tonight. He's currently on tour with the group Kansas. So he's on tour all over the country, and then we want to give special thanks.
And here are some special thanks. Well, Casa Italiana funded my documentary Healing Journeys with the Black Madonna, which is filming my workshops and pilgrimages in the summer. Took a long time to do it. It's very beautiful. We were going to end with that trailer, but I think we should just end with the pizzica tarantata and dance. Some of you may have seen the film. It did really well. I won 2 festivals. John did the music, and I shot in Sicily, and I also shot in Campania, and it ends in Moiano with the Madonna della Libera. So we really did a lot of work in all these years. As I watched these slides and when putting these together was emotionally pretty hard, but I think we did pretty well. Considering, right? So let's play the final, pizzica, tarantata. I believe in the healing power of this dance. I healed myself from another condition that I had. And when I danced, Gypsy Joe played for me and healed me from that disease, and I was fine ever since. Remember that? 1991. So I'm going to ask you to join us, please. He's a clairvoyant, a medium, a real gypsy from Calabria and Sicily, Joseph Giannini, very powerful, and devi salire da qua? Vincenzo, vieni pure te, dai. Where? Again, I want to thank our musicians, Mara Garrity on violin. Resta qua, resta qua. And Krista Patton on harp, oboe, recorders. Some of the original Giullaris, Ralph Dancer. Vincenzo, the one and only, Pulcinella. Joseph Giannini, and my lifetime partner, John La Barbera. And all of you, I know it's been a long night, but it's hard to be brief and tell it 45 years of I Giullari di Piazza. So my aim with this, just keep that in mind, is to turn it into my third book, together with John, and a documentary, because there are so many crazy stories, we didn't even talk about that, and beautiful stories, and then put it all together with the manuscripts, an archive, so that the young generation, some of my students are here. Are you here, students? Did you bring your drums? Yeah? Come up, come on, I want to show we have a legacy. So first, we start with, the Tirolala, go with Tirolala. Actually, I have to start, I'm sorry. Yeah, New Bina. Come on that side, come on that side. Here is Rubaina from Bangladesh and Michael Bello from Brooklyn. You can do it. I Giullari will continue. Come on, Mike. Let's sing it, yeah. Tiro-la-la, 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 tiro-la-la. Giorgio, ci sei? Giorgio? Giorgio? Ce l'ho io qua il tamburello, vieni! Dai, ce l'ho qua dietro! Tiro la la, tiro la la, tiro la la, tiro la la. Dai 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 dai. Va bene? Sì, va bene? Giorgio from Sicily! E amo picciriti, amo a ballare, amo picciriti, amo a ballare. Oi ni ni ni, oi ni ni ni, oi ni ni ni, oi ni ni ni. La 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 la. Mara. Vieni un po' più indietro. Ah, ti prego, Santo Paolo, falla guarire. Ti prego, Santo Paolo, falla guarire. Che l'ave vizzicata, uè, che l'ave vizzicata, uè, che l'ave vizzicata. Tarantella, tarantella, tarantella. Che l'ave vizzicata, tarantella, tarantella, e là, e là. Adora pizzicao, adora tela, adora pizzicao, adora tela. Tutta la boderia, questo sta la boderia di Launella, e Launella, e Launella. Tutta la boderia di Launella, Launella, e la, e la. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, wait, vai, Gypsy. No. Gypsy Joe's gonna start. Vai. giro, talo giro, talo giro di là, unella, e la unella, talo giro di là, unella, hey! Oh come balli bene, Tarantella, oh come balli bene, Tarantella, ballavo e tumbavo, ballavo e tumbavo, ballavo e tumbavo, Tarantella, 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 ballavo e tumbavo, Tarantella. Michela, vieni a ballare, dai! We have a very famous person here, Michela Mallozzi, vai, vieni, yeah! From the TV show Trouble Bare Feet, vai Michela! Oh come balli bene, Tarantella, oh come balli bene, Tarantella, ballamo e tumbamo e ballamo e tumbamo e ballamo e tumbamo e Tarantella, 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 tumbamo Tarantella, ci è malinconia, caccia la fora, caccia la fora, caccia la fora, ci è malinconia, caccia la fora, Di Santo Bartolomeo di Milanante, di Santo Bartolomeo di Milanante, capitini le garose, in mezzo all'ante, rose in mezzo all'ante, buone così niente. E ninna, bello lavori, e ninna, del lavori e ci lo sa di fa. Sorry, I didn't introduce you. Can I introduce you? Please. No, wait a second. I have to introduce you. I need to introduce Michela Mallozzi. You probably saw her on TV. I met her a long time ago. I think I was the first video you shot when you decided to do this incredible adventure.
I also saw Alessandra when I was 8.
Oh, I forgot about that.
At Caramore,
Oh,
I Giullari di Piazza, because Mayor de Blasio, what you said was exactly true. My mother felt so connected to this because of the I'm out of breath right now.
Of course, you are. Me too.
The misrepresentation of the Italian-American culture.
Right.
And I was a kid and I didn't really understand
Nice. And I
everything.
watched you on TV and
So
you were
full circle. But I was a child, fell in love with Alessandra, and then I had the honor of performing in one of the productions of Spire Dance. Mamma mia, I'm out of breath. So this is such an incredible retrospective of your work, the impact you've had on the community, not just the Italian-American community, but so many people.
Thank you.
And my work too. You know, you really...
You know, she's a producer, director, everything of one of the best shows I've ever watched, and I don't say this easily. It's called Travel Bare Feet. It's on NYC Media PBS. And she goes literally all over the world, living my dream in a way, and meeting the people, locals, to learn their dances. And you have to see her dance. She learns all the dances. And you won how many Emmys?
It doesn't matter. This is
No.
Alessandra.
I'm really proud of you. You were part of my group.
Hello.
4 or 5?
4 Emmys.
Four Emmys. Yeah. Grazie. We need to see each other more often. Thank you. We need to speak a lot. Yeah. We should go in Italy.
We will.
Film some of the wild stuff that I go to. I
is
love you,
Alessandra.
Barbera, and thank you, everyone.